Jonathan, good to have you tonight.
Thanks
for being here.
It's great to be here.
And Jonathan, these other two guys are preachers and pastors and bishops, and you're in a little different stream of ministry that God's placed you in.
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about that and tell us who you are and what God's doing.
Well, I've been, like them, I've actually been ministering for a long time.
Right.
Preached my first revival when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Ministry is all I've ever really known, Pastor. So I've been in that stream of, I don't want to say work, but in my life. I've been in ministry for a long time. But about 5 years ago, I've always had a desire. I've always been a musician, and I've always had a desire to be in the studio. So about 5 years ago, we began a company that has evolved into a record label now. We represent a lot of great gospel music artists, and not just singers now. We represent a lot of Christian actors and actresses, and we represent a lot of authors, people that are Christian writers. So it's turned out to be a blessing from the Lord. So we do that a lot during the week, and then we're out ministering on the weekends. So it works out really nice.
You've traveled with some different people through the years, and tell us some of those, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled with, I've been the manager and producer for Naomi and the Seagulls for the last 6 years now. Of course, Naomi was the first lady to ever sell 1 million records in gospel music. People remember her from the Gaither videos. I grew up, my first job was with a group called the Spencer Family Bluegrass from Kentucky. But my wife's parents kind of pioneered the way for bluegrass gospel music in Kentucky and Tennessee and the eastern part of the U.S.
Now that last song was a little touch of that. I heard about a stone.
Yeah. A lot of what we do has been influenced by a lot of that. Even though we do a lot of Southern gospel, all three of us love bluegrass gospel and love our roots and the acoustic sounds from the mountains. And the whole new record, which is called Heritage, reflects that. It's all bluegrass, acoustic, kind of stripped down music of us just playing and doing some songs that we grew up singing.
Now, I introduced the business end of the ministry there has transitioned, and you have this record company, and it is Redemption World Records.
Redemption World Records,
And so that's the end. Do you have a studio? Or?
We do, we do, and we have an office in Nashville. That's where we're based out of, and it's Redemption World Records. But we also have an artist management branch of that as well, where we do artist management. We have a radio promotion side of that, where we promote at radio, hundreds of radio stations across the country, get our comp disc each month with great gospel music. So just anything we can do to help further the kingdom and spread the gospel, and music, and even Mercy's Road music is now playing a big part of that. So we're excited about it.
That's very cool. And we're going to bring all you guys together at the end of the program and kind of talk about Mercy's Road and the ministry part of that, because God's doing some interesting thing through Mercy's Road. You guys, because of different areas and different streams that you're involved in, it's hard for you guys to travel all the time, but you do certain events. We want to talk about that. But your calling and gifting is to help others be able to promote and to expose the ministry that God's called them to. I want to dig into that just a little bit more, because I know there's some people watching, a lot of people that watch Channel 16, watch Nightline, love especially Southern gospel music. This is a great area, a hotbed for Southern gospel music. And I know there's a lot of different groups and people that would like to help expose their ministry. God's called them, gifted them and anointed them, but the struggle that I see, and where I think your role is very important, a lot of times people have a great anointing to minister, but they don't know how to really get that exposed and open the doors and all of that. And that's what God's called you to do, is to help them do that. How can they connect with you?
You said it, Pastor, because I found out even when I left the Spencer family, my wife and my brother and I, we began to travel and sing, and this was 7 or 8 years ago. And one of the things that I found out was I knew God had called me. I knew I had a gift, but I didn't know what to do with it other than, the local churches when people would call. And I really needed I needed a team or God to connect me, Kingdom connect me with the right people to help provide that platform that I felt like God had called us to. And so that was kind of the reason that we birthed this record label. It wasn't just because we needed another job. It wasn't because we wanted to make money recording gospel music. We really felt in our hearts that there are a lot of, what I always say it like this, there's a lot of Davids on the backside of the desert tending their father's sheep, but they've been anointed and called to be king. And you remember Jesus said in the last day, the first would be last and the last would be first. And I'm seeing a lot of what we know as maybe the larger gospel groups or people that's been around for a long time, some of them are starting to kind of wither away. And a lot of the old matriarchs and patriarchs of gospel music they're dying out. They're going on to be with the Lord. And I believe God's raising up a new generation. And it may not sound like it always has. I believe there's a new sound in the air. But I do believe that God will use people like myself and you and many of us to help not only provide the platform, but to help cultivate and create an atmosphere and a way that people can use their talents and their gifts. And so that's kind of what we're about and what our heart is for.
Well, you said it so well. I say this all the time, some of the greatest preachers, as a pastor who loves preaching, I say some of the greatest pastors, some of the greatest preachers are hid out somewhere on that backside of a desert that the world does not know them yet, but they've got a word that's been deposited in their life. There's musicians and singers and songwriters that are writing some of the greatest songs that have never been heard.
Yeah.
And God needs people to be able to network. I call that to be able to network and help them connect with the right place and the right people for the world to be able to hear their gift. And what an amazing thing. Now, so you've got the record label, and then you mentioned also some other streams of things that are happening.
I mean, we under the Redemption World Management, it's an umbrella that has the record label. We do artist management and radio promotion things. But, at heart, I'm a minister and a worship leader. I've been on staff in churches for the last 11 years, up until July of 2 years ago now. So I've worked in church all my life. I love working in the local church. I believe in the local church.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's real important to me in the area of work that I'm in, because you got a lot of singers that are traveling sometimes 350 dates a year,
Right.
And they're always on the road. But I think it's really important to have a pastor, to be planted in the local church. So I love that. And that's one of the areas that we work in our local. That we do is, of course, we travel with Mercy's Road, and then my wife and I and my brother, we sing as well and record. And we kind of like Mercy's Road, we do it just on the side, and we do it for fun and do it because we have an audience. People seem to enjoy it. And we got a new record that just came out too, so we're promoting that as well.
Yeah, so you got you're multifaceted and a lot of different things going on. Tell me, you kind of answered this already, but why are you doing what you're doing? Because what I sense from you that's unique, it's not just business. Somebody told me, we were talking about a family that I grew up listening to their music years ago and met the patriarch, kind of one of the patriarchs of that family, that told me something years ago that's always stuck with me. He said, there's ministry and there's the business side of it. Because when you're on that, he told me like this, he said, when you're on that stage and you're ministering to people, it can never be a business.
Right.
You can never approach that as a business, because your moment there is to minister to the people and do what God's called you to do. On the other side, when you step off that stage and you're dealing with the business end of it, if you approach it strictly from ministry, there's going to be a businessman that will take advantage of you. And you can never get those two confused. You can't make it all ministry when you're dealing with the business end of it, and you can't make ministry about business.
I agree.
How would you kind of define that a little more for that person? Because tonight I believe there's somebody that may be watching that has such a heart for God and a heart for ministry, and they need a little help on that business. How do you separate those two? Because I see you doing that well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like ministry and entertainment as well. You said ministry and business, but a lot of people will separate it as ministry and entertainment. They can't decipher if a group is out there singing and they're doing it for a living, if they're doing it as businessmen and entertainers, or if they're doing it as ministers. But I was at an event with Bill Gaither one time, and a reporter came up to him and asked him, said, "Are you a minister or are you an entertainer?" And he said, "Yes and yes." Next question. Yeah. I believe there's a balance that we can bring to it, and using wisdom.
Sure.
I believe there's a balance that we can bring to it and allow God to use our gift to become our livelihood, to become what we do in life. I still believe that God can raise up men and women to lead the kingdom, and they can devote and commit their life to it without having to do it on a side or do it as a hobby. And all I've ever been is in ministry. Like I said, it's all I've ever done in my life. And I think the reason is because I believed in my dream. I believed in what God had put on the inside of me, and I pursued it. I believe a lot of people have it, but they don't ever pursue it. They don't, like you said, they don't know how. But I believe if people will go after their dream, that God's put, and He's put it in everybody. Maybe they're not a singer, maybe they're not a preacher, but there's something in them. Maybe it's whatever it is, a builder or a construction person, whatever it is. I believe that you should go after your dream.
Amen.
And I believe God will always back that, and God will bless that.
And your gift will make room for you.
Always.
That's what the Scripture
Always.
says. If you just follow your dream and follow what God's called you to be, you know, I was thinking and reflecting in my own schedule this week, what a joy it is. I've had a very, very heavy itinerary, but to realize that God has allowed me to do what He called me to do.
Yes,
Same with
Lord.
you.
Amen.
Now, how can somebody get in touch with you? Your information is there. You've got a website?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's redemptionglobal.com. Real simple, and all the info's there. Not only can they get all the info about our company, but all the Mercies Road info is there. All the other artists that we work with, and if somebody's interested in joining our family of artists, they can submit their music there as well.
That's wonderful. And you and your family are traveling and singing as well.
We are.
So, and as you'll see, as you've already seen, those of you that are watching, and you will see throughout the program, Jonathan's gifted musician. A couple of these tracks, that last song, I think you were playing every instrument on that track.
Yeah, the guys let me play all the music on the new record, you know, just because we wanted to do it, like I said, go back to our heritage and do it. So I just grabbed some instruments out of the closet and knocked the dust off of them, and we made it work.
Yeah.
But it turned out nice.
So I know there's pastors and ministries out there that would love to have you come.
Yeah,
and,
we would love to.
whether it be Mercies Road or your family group, to come and minister and sing and then connect. I know there's a lot of people that watch this program that are ministering in their own right in churches and have their own group. And this would be a great way. I want to encourage you to connect and help develop and grow that, because what I'm hearing is this holistic approach to understand the balance of ministry and how to record and promote and all that thing. It's so important. So Jonathan, I appreciate you being here tonight. You're going to come back after you guys sing in the second hour. We're going to come back together as Mercies Road and kind of just talk about Mercies Road and that area, that arm of your ministry. But thanks so much for coming, being a part of this tonight. And there's the contact information again, 859-398-5994, and then that's the phone number, and then of course the email and the website, redemptionglobal.com. Go check that out. We have prayer requests here tonight. I want to encourage you again as the program continues throughout this.